Hello and welcome back to Mark's NOTCAST. It's number 488. Today is Thursday, 23rd of April, 2026. And it's been about a week and a half since I've done one of these. I tend to do one of these about once a week. And it's, an irregular series where a middle-aged man talks about records he likes, loves, or in some cases merely owns, which can be a little bit embarrassing. And I was asked earlier in one of the questions, am I going to be talking about Megadeth, for example? And the answer is no. I like Megadeth. I don't like Dave Mustaine. And there's only so many times that I can go, and this is where Dave was a bit of an arsehole. It really is, and then it would just be like one of those drawstrings from Toy Story. As you pull the back, and he'll go, "You're my favourite metal arsehole." And which one's that going to be? I wonder. Also, there's some big things that are going on, which I'm going to be able to talk about at various points in the future, and I fully intend to update you on those as they go along. One of which will probably be is taking up a lot of my time at the moment, and a lot of travelling, and that will become clear, I think, at some point soon. Another one will take a little longer, but the third thing, and I know I made an announcement about it a little while ago, and I'm working on when I can announce the book, I can announce the publication date, title, etc., publisher, all those sort of things. I have finished it. I have put over 100,000 words since around about the 15th of January into a book, which is now finished. And there's got some editing and some drafting and some extra bits that need to go alongside it, but that will be joining the world shortly. Depending upon your point of view, you will either be able to buy a rare unsigned copy from a bookstore, or a signed copy of me. Not that my signature is worth much. I've been really busy. And as I said, there's been a lot of travelling, there's been a lot of long hours, there's been a lot of stuff going on, and that's still going to go on for quite some time to come. So what I need to do sometimes is just take my brain out, give it a rest, think about something that isn't that stuff, and think about this. And today I am going to be talking about popular beat combo, the Oasis, and their fifth studio record, released a staggering 24 years ago, Heathen Chemistry. Which means, somewhat bizarrely, and I still can't get my head around this, is that 24 years ago, the first single from this album was number one. It feels much shorter than 24 years ago, but as you get older, time becomes elastic. It changes. The relationship that we have to time changes. I was listening to Pet Shop Boys, Always on My Mind today, and realizing two things. One, I've been listening to that song in various configurations for 39 years, and two, that means I'm probably more than halfway through the amount of years that I have in my life to listen to that song. Unless I manage to get to, the grand old age of 91 or 92, which I'm not necessarily convinced is going to happen. So, with that on mind, and bearing in mind that Heathen Chemistry is 24 years old, better talk about that. So this is a number one album in the UK, in Ireland, in Switzerland. It's the first album that's recorded by the band's new and probably second era lineup of Andy Bell, there known as a psychedelic giraffe because he's 4 inches taller than Liam. Alan White, he's all right. Noel Gallagher, Gem Archer, also I think his first name was Colin, and the Liam Gallagher there on vocals. And to talk about that period and what happened. So this was the ending of the band's imperial phase. Now you may not think that, because obviously Oasis sold something like 412 nights out at the various stadiums across the world last year on the Live 25 campaign, also known as the Divorce Tour, amongst the cynical of us. But this was the start of a new band with an old name. It was the start of the branding, where in Oasis were always kind of perceived as the brothers. And obviously the iconography that we've got for Live 25 describes the band as brothers, with some other dudes. But this was the start of the period where the band stopped being absolutely tip-top, mega on top of the world, and started to be a little bit fallible. This was their 7th, 8th year of making records. People were starting to take Oasis for granted. They were starting to think, I won't go and see them on this tour because I've got to make some payments on my car. I'm going to go and see them on the next tour, for example. People were going, well, I'll buy the album in a couple of weeks. I won't buy the album the day it comes out. Those were the kind of conversations that people had. I had Oasis fatigue. I had everything fatigue when this came out on the 1st of July 2002. And, the release of this album coincides with a fairly shocking moment in my personal history, which I may or may not detail later on. By the way, I'm not the one that did any of the shocking stuff. It's something somebody else did. This is the end of the band's imperial phase. They were no longer bulletproof. There was no guarantees. The days of knowing everything is going to go into number one and you're going to get 2.5 million ticket applications had started to tip a little bit. And Andy and Gem had joined the band and were starting to write songs. Andy wrote one called, I think is it called A Quick Peep is on here? And I think Gem wrote Hung in a Bad Place as well, which is on this album. And it's obviously kind of like, Noel wrote 6, Liam wrote 3. So, Gem 1, Andy 1. That sounds like a great football team. And it sold about 2 million copies in the world, which these days people go, I can't believe it sold more than 10,000 copies. Now, if you want to get a depressing thought, think about how many copies a number one album in the UK will sell now. But that doesn't translate through to ticket sales, t-shirt sales, or anything like that. Because sometimes you sell an album once, but you can sell a different ticket to someone every single night. So, you can buy the album once and buy 15 gig tickets to see them 15 times on a tour, if that's what you want to do. I think the most times I've ever seen a band on an album tour is about 21 times, I think. But I'll talk about that some other time with another band. Who the tour was really, really long, by the way. And it sold 2 million copies in the world, 1.2 million in the US, several 100,000 in the UK. And by the way, it is Liam Gallagher's least favourite Oasis album. It was recorded between early 2001 and autumn 2001, and then it sat on the shelf waiting 3 months for vocals from Liam, because Liam couldn't be bothered to record these vocals. And as Noel described it, he's just concentrated on his drinking habit. But I kind of get annoyed about that kind of behaviour. It's your fucking job, mate. Do your job, right? If you want to have the thing where you earn loads of money and live in an amazing house, and you've got the ability to take 3 months off, remember that you have to do the job from time to time. And people, money, economies, everything else is relying on you turning up and singing. So spending 3 months going, nah, I'm not feeling it. That's not how any other job in the world works. And we should stop indulging people that are not committed to it. As he said, he concentrated on his drinking habit. And by the way, at the time in 2001, 2002, I was phoning, but drinking was absolutely amazing, but it doesn't help you with your life. And actually, I will talk about the shocking incident that happened. Around the time this came out, I separated in quite a quick emergency fashion from somebody that I was unsuited to be in a relationship with. That particular person also concentrated on their drinking habit for a period of time. And what they hadn't grasped, in my opinion, is the fact that, if you have leisure and pleasure, that's the reward for doing the things that you don't want to do. You can't just do the things you want to do all the time. Sometimes you have to do things that you don't necessarily want to do. So, for example, going to work, etc. It became apparent that the connection between the two had been broken. That person was overindulging in their drinking. They would switch off their phone and they would drive somewhere and they would get incredibly drunk with their friends. And I would have no idea where they were, what they were doing, even what town they were in. And I'd have no idea if they were even alive until they kind of stumbled in at like 11:30 at night, having driven back absolutely shit-faced from wherever the hell it was. And I must admit, I spent a few months kind of basically waiting for this sound and me opening it and there being 2 policemen at the door telling me that someone that I lived with had died whilst drunkenly driving at high speed in a motorway or something else. And having been in the car at one point when that happened, it was not unwelcome when we separated. And the separation was very quick. It was quite brutal, but it was definitely long overdue. And that happened, by the way, the day after my birthday. So not an amazing birthday day at all. Sat up, went to sat an exam, came back, and that was it. We were over that night. Very unusual kind of circumstance. That's what happened around about the week this came out, by the way. But certainly, I'm far happier for not having seen that person for 20. How many years is it now? 24 years, and I think they are too. So all's well that ends well. And around about that time, this album came out, and I spent a lot of time listening to it. And there's a couple of songs on here that really, really spoke to me in quite a deep and profound fashion through that. One of which was the second single from the album, Stop Crying Your Heart Out. More on that later. The first part of the album was preceded by a couple of events. The first one was the 10 Years of Noise and Confusion tour. Here's a bootleg DVD from the television broadcast at Glasgow Barrowlands in 2001, which featured the band playing 6 small intimate shows in London, Manchester and Glasgow, playing in Glasgow at the Barrowlands, which is one of the best venues in the world, by the way, and I hope to be going there again at some point in my life, playing to 1,500, 2,000 people, and performing a set of bangers and classics. That was the start of it, and in that tour they premiered 2 new songs. One was the Hindu Times, and I think the other one was called Home in a Bad Place. And the Hindu Times went down so well that it was chosen to be the first single released from the album. And I have, somewhat oddly, 3 CD singles. A CD single, a DVD single, and an unusual CD of the Hindu Times as well. And this is, in my opinion, one of the better Oasis singles. And in fact, the definitive version of the track is the demo that is on the DVD single. And that's for 2 reasons. One, it has sampled drums, and it has this huge, massive gated drum sound. And I'm not quite sure where it comes from, but it's most definitely not an Alan White kit. And it's one of the best drum sounds I've ever heard. I might be from Massive Attack's Mezzanine, actually, which has, again, one of the best drum sounds of all time. And that's one of the reasons why that album is so renowned as a classic. And it has that, and it has a null vocal on it, and it runs faster, and it's quicker. It's just better, really, than the version recorded with Liam, which sounds a little bit more staid. It's been Oasified, if that's a word. Not ossified, Oasified. And it's been made a little less interesting. But the Hindu Times, as a song, it doesn't mean anything. It's the band's 6th UK #1. It was dislodged from the #1 spot by Freak Like Me. And it takes its name from a T-shirt, which Noel saw. Human Magpie, always spotting things like, I love that. And it's the shortest Oasis single since Roll With It, by the way. So it's fast, it's quick, it's over very, very quickly. And the demo is played up a semitone. The original version is played down a semitone. Maybe that's another reason why I prefer it. It feels livelier, quicker, more vibrant. And it's a little bit slower, but with different lyrics. But actually, slow isn't necessarily bad, because sometimes you've got to find your right speed. And I've been thinking about this a lot, actually. But sometimes a song can be exactly the same, but it can be played 1% slower, and it just sounds 100 times better. Or it can be played 3% faster, and it can sound 100 times better. And when I say 3% faster, I'm thinking very specifically about live iterations of Suede's Metal Mickey, which has an extra chorus and is only 8 seconds longer than the original studio recording, which is odd because there's a pause in the middle of Metal Mickey. On the studio recording, it comes at 2 minutes 10 seconds, and on live versions, it comes at 2 minutes 2 seconds. Sometimes you've just got to find your speed, and the speed of the demo, I think, is the better version there. This was the first time, I think, after Britpop, where there'd been a vast and new non-new metal scene which had come up, and that had been the rise of the Strokes with Last Night. and their album This Is It, or whatever it was called. Sorry, the one with the picture of the bum on. And it just changed the world, and it made, there was another generation of white skinny indie boy rock coming up that 2 years later, with the Libertines and Franz Ferdinand and Editors and Block Party and all those other bands, was going to rise to prominence. Kind of Britpop too, Denim Boogaloo. But this was in that weird interval period where we weren't quite sure exactly what direction it was going to take next. So I absolutely loved Hindu Times, by the way, on the CD, and I may not have been a 12-inch actually. It's backed with Just Getting Older, which is a revisited demo from the Shoulder of Giants period, and a track called Idler's Dream. And I think Just Getting Older is one of the best Oasis songs there is, actually. It's this lovely, funny, human song, which was recorded in 1999 about hangovers and about getting older and just not really feeling with it. And well, as someone who is getting older himself, there's a lot in that song that I identify with. It was a song that was most definitely old before its time, and it's one of the first Oasis songs that really addresses the legacy of the past and how one feels when you get a little bit older and there are people you've got less in common with over time. It's also back with Idler's Dream. And Idler's Dream, unlike previous Oasis B-sides, this was where Oasis were actually being a little bit experimental for the first time. It's the I think one of just 4 Oasis songs that doesn't have any drums on at all, and it's the only one that doesn't have any guitars on. It's just an organ, keyboards, and Noel's vocals. So it's a fantastic song, very, very much worth listening to. And then, of course, on the DVD single, because God bless if there isn't a format that's as terrible as a DVD single, I've never heard of it, features the Hindu Times demo, a video, documentary, 10 minutes of noise and confusion, live in North America, June 2021. And yeah, well worth watching, but not necessarily something you might think, oh God, I really, really, really need to see that. Now, the third item I mentioned, and this is an unusual little beastie, is the, this is an unusual one. This is the Hindu Times, but it is an 18-track version of the Hindu Times that was released almost definitely unofficially in Taiwan, of all places, with a unique and unusual Oasis logo on there, and portraying itself as effectively 3 new songs plus 15 greatest hits. So the Hindu Times, Just Getting Older, and Idler's Dream are the first 3 tracks on there, but we've also got Wonderwall, Champagne Supernova, Hello, Roll With It, Go Let It Out, Who Feels Love, Hey Now, Don't Look Back in Anger, Fucking in the Bushes, Some Might Say, I Can See a Liar, She's Electric, Where Did It All Go Wrong, a track called Momentary Music, which is an instrumental interstitial piece, and Roll It Over. An unusual release, that one, absolutely, definitely kind of badged as that. And for some weird reason, and I don't quite get it, it's got this weird design with all the lyrics in and odd little photos. There's Giggsy, who's no longer in the band. There's one version of the band. There's another. There's Noel as well. It's just a strange, weird release. Somebody somewhere in Taiwan probably thought, well, we can slap a couple of things on there. We'll put a copyright notice on. Logos are pre-authorized. Duplication is a violation of applicable laws. Naughty, very, very naughty. And it was also preceded with its second single before it came out, which is absolutely one of my favourite Noel Gallagher songs of all time. And I'm sure many other people feel exactly the same. It is Stop Crying Your Heart Out. Powerful, meaningful, bloody excellent song. I've got to be honest about it. It really is bloody excellent. And I've suddenly realised I've put something down. I don't know where it is, and I will need it very soon. I'm going to be back very shortly. Can we pretend that lovely bit of stop motion didn't just happen? Well, I found what I was looking for, which I'll explain in a moment. Stop Crying Your Heart Out was the second single released from the album, and it was bloody big. It became number 2 in the UK charts. And it's become a power ballad. It's become a classic. It's been used as a football anthem. It was used in the films Butterfly Effect, Maid of Honor, and I Swear as well. And it's just become one of those terrace chant classic movies, songs that you kind of listen to and go, wow, it's like you can't imagine a time when it didn't exist in the world. It's one of those songs that when you listen to it and suddenly you go, I'm going to know that song for the rest of my life. Like the first moment that I heard Wonderwall, and about a minute and a half into Wonderwall, and I thought, I'm going to hear this song every year of my life for the rest of my life. And that's how I felt about Stop Crying Your Heart Out, by the way. It's just a fantastic, beautiful song. Although it was only retired from live performance in 2005 and hasn't been played live by Oasis since then, which is pretty surprising, all things considered. Stop Crying Your Heart Out is available in 2 recordings. There's the CD single, which is also backed with Thank You for the Good Times and Shout It Out Loud. And Thank You for the Good Times has never been played live, but it has, it has by Andy Bell as a solo artist in Stockholm in 2003, but not by Oasis. And on the DVD single, a format I'm afraid we're going to be seeing quite a bit of in the future, is backed with the demo by Noel, and also 10 Minutes of Noise and Confusion, North America 2001. And again, a DVD single is a terrible, terrible format. No good, very bad indeed. But the real highlight of Stop Crying Your Heart Out, and what I think is one of the absolute best Oasis recordings, is the demo, which has only been released in audio form on this CD, which came with the Sunday Times in 2002. And it features Hello, Hung in a Bad Place, Force of Nature, Gas Panic, a demo version of that was released previously on a Japanese CD single, Songbird, and the demo of Stop Crying Your Heart Out. And the demo is, in my opinion, it's the version of the song that should have been closing the album, because it's just a very, very gentle, very delicate guitar, keys, very understated drums, no vocal. It shows that really, honestly, I am not an Oasis fan. I'm a Noel Gallagher fan. It's a fucking amazing version of the song. And I don't like to swear, but it absolutely is that good. And if you haven't heard it, run. Don't walk. Run to listen to it. I'll put a link down there. But make sure you watch the rest of this video first, okay? Thank you. Then on about 1st of July 2002, album number 5, Heathen Chemistry, was released. Here's one of the 2009 Big Brother repressings of it. I'm not that fussed about getting an original copy because, 1, they're barely indistinguishable from the originals. 2, the only thing that's different as far as I can tell is a copyright date that's on the back here. Everything else is exactly the same as I remember it being when it came out. And 3, Oasis albums are compressed and harsh and loud anyway. Going back to an original mastering, it's still going to be harsh and loud, so you're not getting any audiophile benefits necessarily from it unless you go for the DVD-A of What's the Story, Morning Glory, that came out in 2003 and is staggeringly expensive. This was the first album where the new version of Oasis set out its stall on CD and vinyl, and it's the first one where you've got, you've kind of got an adapted version of the logo there. You've got Oasis in the box, you've got the black and white, but you've taken away your standard typography here, the lowercase by Micro Dot, and turned it into something else. And the album has 11 songs on. I think the sequencing is a little out. I'll explain why in a minute. I think Stop Crying Your Heart Out should be the last track on the record. But it does feature, oh look, it says Mr. I Can't Be Fucked to turn up to work for 3 months. But it features like a strong visual identity. Look at that and go, yep, that's a band. Oasis were one band, they're now this band. And that's an accurate and fair kind of way of describing how the album works. The second track on it is called Force of Nature, and that was written at the request of Jude Law, of all people, who apparently lived next to Noel somewhere very, very nice and very, very warm, and was asked if he could write a song for a Jude Law film called Love, Honour and Obey, which, according to reports, has lots of well-known British actors pretending to be terrible gangsters. And it was built upon a sample from Iggy Pop's Nightclubbing. And if you listen to Iggy Pop's Nightclubbing, There's a bit just before the vocal starts where he does a kind of sound, and that's the bit they couldn't get clear. So they wanted to get it clear, but they couldn't get that bit clear because. So instead, what they did is they tracked down the original drum machine and the original settings. One of the many kind of copies of that were manufactured at the same time. Not the exact same drum machine. Let's say it was unless it's HR16. And if fans of a certain band know that drum machine, you'll know who I'm talking about. Let's say if they find the original Oasis HR16 and then kind of program the same beat in and rebuilt it from there. So very sneaky, but not unintelligent view of them. And what they did with Force of Nature is they replicated the original drum machine. And by the way, you might think the song's about divorce because there's a lyric about, spending all of my cash, smoking all of my hash, etc. And other words that like rhyme with that. Tom is going to join the fash, for example. That's not exactly how it works. So instead, no, actually it was written about, much like Just Getting Older, about living at supernova heights by Noel and having loads of people come around to his house that he didn't know that were going, oh, I'm having a party in Noel Gallagher's house. And Noel's like, I just want to sit at home and watch Homes Under the Hammer, or whatever program it is that he wants to watch but couldn't. So there you go. It's a great song. Liam refused to sing it, which means that it was potentially it was meant to be thought about. Maybe they thought maybe that'll be the first single from the album, but since Liam wouldn't sing it, they wouldn't, and they chose the Hindu Times instead. So that is Force of Nature. And then track 3 is Hung in a Bad Place. Hung in a Bad Place, written by Gem, who takes his name, by the way, from a footballer called Archie Gemmell. Fans of Trainspotting will have heard him referred to as the benchmark by which Mark Renton hasn't felt as good as since Archie Gemmell scored, I believe, in whatever year it is, 1968 or thereabouts. And Hung in a Bad Place, great tracks, very good. It's if you were listening to it and going, is it written by Noel? You might go, maybe Noel's not had quite so much coffee as normal, but it certainly is a more than serviceable, pretty damn good song. So much so that it was a fixture of the tour, played on every night of the Heathen Chemistry tour that ran from 2002 to early 2003. And then track 4, as I've mentioned before, is Stop Crying Your Heart Out. Track 5, fourth single from the album, I'm not sure which one it is, written by Liam, is Songbird. And Songbird is, it follows, well, I'm not a huge fan of it. And the reason I'm not a huge fan of it is because I don't think Liam is particularly good as a lyricist. Certainly not in those days. He follows a very basic, very conventional AA, BB rhyming structure and doesn't really play with language. It's all very obvious, straightforward, so you've got a line in Wonderwall like slowly walking down, Champagne Supernova, it's like slowly walking down the hall faster than a cannonball, but when you get to things like Songbird, it's always like talking to the songbird yesterday, listen to the song that she heard me playing. It's like it's not got the mystery, it's not got the style, it's basic, and that's possibly why Songbird didn't really hit me. It's an okay song, I think it did very well. It got to number 3 of the UK pop charts on the 3rd of February 2003, and you can really hear it, but it's a very basic song. If someone was to say to you that's a Beatles B-side from 1968, nobody would go, oh no it isn't. Everyone go, yeah, that makes sense. Probably the B-side of Paperback Writer, Mark, right? It sounds like it was written by Paul McCartney in 3 minutes. And that's and by the way, that's a compliment. If it sounds like it was written by Paul McCartney in 3 minutes, that's better than some people's whole careers. But it's not the best song that there is, and I think Noel's songs are better. The DVD single, the inevitable DVD single, is backed with the demo, which is again a different recording and arrangement. And then it's also got the exclusive interview and live performance footage, I think probably from Finsbury Park 2002 on here. Now, the interesting thing about Songbird is that the version of the song that you hear, it sounds very basic and very minimal, and that's because it is, because they were recorded the song and they're thinking, right, great, we've got it, we know what we're doing, but they couldn't get the mix to work. And it was only when Noel took off harmonica, bass and electric guitar, so it's just acoustic guitar, drums and organ, is that it was able to work. And by the way, this was backed with a song called You've Got the Heart of a Star, which is a great B-side, and also a live version of Columbia recorded at Glasgow Barrowlands in 2001, which was on the 10 Years of Noise and Confusion DVD I showed you earlier on. So again, all these great little songs hiding away that you have, maybe you've heard, and if you haven't, now's an ideal time to get away from it all, as Captain Kirk said in Star Trek 2. Then we have Heathen Chemistry, back into Heathen Chemistry. Track 6 is Little by Little, and again, that was released as a single on the 19th of September 2002. It's a double A side with She Is Love, and that's again a fine single, got to number 2 in the British pop charts. And it's by the way, the cover art is a homage to Robert Indiano's artwork Love, which was also, by the way, borrowed by Rage Against the Machine for their covers album, which the name of which I've temporarily forgotten. And again, Little by Little, Liam was meant to do the vocals, but didn't. So another single sung by Noel, and he couldn't get it. He couldn't understand it. And, you know, and as a singer and a vocalist, and I understand this, is if you're being asked to sing a lyric that you don't understand, don't grasp, and don't believe in, it's difficult to present the verisimilitude of the moment. It's difficult to say, I get this song, I know this song, I understand this song. You can't front something you don't understand, because otherwise you sound like, I'm Ron Burgundy, go fuck yourself, Chicago, for example, and you end up, you don't believe the song, and it's difficult to really kind of project that as a meaningful kind of experience for you. And again, the demo of Little by Little was sung by Noel. It's on the DVD single there, and the DVD single is also backed with Finsbury Park, London, July 2002, 10 Minutes of Noise and Confusion, Part 3 documentary. But the demo, it was inspired a little bit by the film Love, Honour and Obey. Whoever thought that terrible gangster movie from the early 2000s would inspire 2 great Oasis songs? Certainly I didn't, but hey, here we are, right? That's the world we live in. I didn't see that one coming. And instead, we have the demo, which is on here, and on the CD single, we have Little by Little and She Is Love. And then the last track is a cover version of The Who's My Generation, taken from a recording from BBC's Later with Jules Holland from the 20th of January 2000. So, somewhat oddly, even though that is 2.5 years earlier, that was the time that Standing on the Shoulder with Giants came out, which was late January, early February of the year 2000, was a time when I had probably the most catastrophically cruel end to a relationship that I'd ever experienced. It didn't matter what I did or didn't do. Whatever it was that I did or didn't do wasn't going to be whatever the other person in the relationship wanted. And at one point they said and did the most cruel things they could possibly think of, so I wouldn't ever want them back. And looking back at it now with a 26-year kind of gap, I'm able to look at it and go, that really was cruel, and it unnecessarily so. But I thought, every time Oasis stick an album out, I'm going to have a disastrously painful end to a relationship. And I thought, am I cursed? Has someone somewhere, because remember I had hair in those days, someone somewhere taken a hair out of my head and stuck it into a witch's broth and turned it in, I had no idea. But all those things to one side, my generation later kind of passed me by, really, because I had my mind on other shit at the time. And that was, a strange experience. It's that was 2.5 years in the rearview mirror by the time that this came out. But sometimes it brings it all back to you, doesn't it? A song, a moment, a thought, and you kind of suddenly you're back in that place where you were, and you thought, I'd forgotten all of this, but it comes back. I was looking at some photographs a while ago from a very long time ago, and things that I thought I'd forgotten, I hadn't forgotten. They're just other stuff was sitting on top of them at the time. And that was in itself quite an interesting place to be. So that is, track 6, Little by Little. Great song, by the way. The only song post 1997 that the band have played on their Live 25 tour. Track 8 is called A Quick Peep. And A Quick Peep opens side 3 of this double album, even though the double album is only about 48 minutes long. And it was called The Psychedelic Giraffe because it was named after Andy Bell, because Andy was 4 inches taller than Liam, as I mentioned earlier. And it's just a nice, short, lovely, silly instrumental. And then track 8 is Probably All in the Mind. And Probably All in the Mind is quite forgettable, really. Just kind of passes you by. But it does have Johnny Marr on guitar, and that's a fabulous little experience. Then we have She Is Love as track 9. Again, the double A-side single with Little by Little here. And She Is Love was inspired by and borrows from, and I think it's Callie Gibbons' book, The Prophet, but also which that book apparently also inspired, I think, John Lennon, and he wrote a song for his first wife, Julia. And again, She Is Love kind of took its cue from that song as well. So heavily influenced, wearing its John Lennon influences firmly on its parka jacketed sleeve. And oddly enough, She Is Love has 3 solos in it. So it has a solo that's on mellotron, then Hammond organ, then pump organ, which is more keyboards than I was expecting for any band of its ilk, apart from the Charlatans, who have the cheesiest keyboard sound in Britain. But that was, that's She Is Love. And then track 10 was Born on a Different Cloud, which is, is fine. Very interesting song in so much as it's talking about not belonging in this world, being of this world, but not being part of this world, and feeling perhaps a little bit alienated and a little bit kind of outside of the conventional reality that we live in. And then the last track is Better Man, which was originally recorded with Johnny Marr on guitars, Noel on drums, and Gem and Andy on respectively guitar and bass. And Better Man's quite good, but it's not amazing. And overall, I mean, the whole sense that I had for the album when it came out was being a bit disappointed, really, actually. So much so, when I was a member of the Oasis mailing list run by Ned Raggett, someone said I was a bitter man for not automatically liking the album. And that, occasionally, about once a year, that pops into my head and I go, yeah, it's a good pun, but it's not true. Not the last person to accuse me of being bitter, but as you can work out, not exactly where I am in this state of mind. So I'm running quite short now. My battery is only on 5%, so I'm going to start to wrap up pretty quickly, actually. So a slightly shorter episode than perhaps you might normally expect. So that was the period. There was one more song that was released. It was the cover version of Merry Christmas Everybody, sung by Noel, which appeared in the end credits to a Christmas episode of The Royal Family. Totally forgot that happened until recently. And then the band went on tour, played 94 shows on the Heathen Chemistry tour. It was the last tour that Alan White did as a member of the band. And probably the most notable part of that tour is, aside from the fact that the band weren't playing Wonderwall and instead were playing the tape of Wonderwall at the end of the show, is that there was a big fight in Munich. As you can imagine, there's an element of people thinking that someone like Liam is peacocking, and therefore some big hard man wants to take him down. And Liam was attacked in a hotel bar in Munich, and he lost his tooth, and Alan White had to have some brain scans as well because of the violence that took place. Liam was arrested. He tested positive for drugs. He was fined £35,000. But ultimately, that's, I think, a failure of both, one, the ego of certain people, and secondly, of security, because really they should have been there to step in and stop it from happening. But of course, you can't predict well, you can predict almost anything apart from human stupidity, can't you? My word, there is a lot of that going around. The tour ground to a halt in 2003. Some shows were, and I say ground, it was deliberate. Some shows were rescheduled as a result of the attack. When Liam was back up to full health, that was the last of the tour. But that was the last tour with Alan on drums. And this is a truncated ending, by the way, because I am now on a very low battery. I've forgotten to charge my phone today. That was Oasis's Heathen Chemistry album from 2002. Lots of great B-sides in this time, lots of really good tracks, some not so great tracks, but that's the story of an Oasis album these days. It became just another Oasis album. There wasn't a compulsive need to put out all of the best tracks in one go. And that would be Heathen Chemistry for you. So there you are. Thank you for watching. If you've made it this far, I look forward to seeing you again, and hopefully I will have news for you the next time that we talk, when I can announce the book, the title, the release date and everything else. But in the meantime, do like and subscribe, because I think I'm obliged to have to say that. And take care of yourselves and each other. Stay beautiful, beautiful ones, and I will see you sometime soon. Thank you very much, and good night.